My husband, 45, and I, 44, have been married for 19 years. We have 5 children together. 7 years ago he had an affair with a woman he met at his workplace. She didn't work there, however, and he got her pregnant. He told me the truth about all of this when the woman was about 6 months pregnant. He also got a paternity test to make sure the baby was his. When he told me this, I felt betrayed and destroyed, but after marriage counseling and the fact that I still love him, I decided to give him another chance. He's been absolutely amazing since then and has given me no reasons to suspect he's up to his former misbehavior. We are going to celebrate our 20-year anniversary in 2 weeks. After the woman gave birth to the baby, she kept custody of him, and my husband has been giving money to support the child. We have rarely heard from the woman since then until last week when she approached my husband at his workplace. My husband told me that the woman wants him to be in the child's life and be a father figure to him, take him to sports games, play with him, go to school-related things, etc. I told my husband he has no legal obligation to do that, and I didn't want him to. If he did so, then he would be spending less time with our children, and it would make things in our family and extended family a lot more awkward. As of now, nobody else in our family know about the affair and the illegitimate child except me, my husband, and his sister. Also, he has never had a relationship with this child, so why start now and add even more responsibility to himself? The incentives I provided him are ones that are beneficial to him and to our family. He told me that it would be best for the child if he was in his life and tried to be a father figure. I told him I see where he's coming from, and it's very commendable. My husband is a very good person, but by doing this, he is detracting from the love and attention he will show the family he knows and has been with for a long time. This may also make things awkward between him and our children. Additionally, someone in our family or someone we know might see him hanging out with a child, and that might lead to the revelation of his affair and damage his relationship with my family members and maybe even with his own family. I told him ultimately it's his choice, but I am firmly against it. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. As soon as you chose to stay with him, you had to have understood this. That child is just as much his child as the children you have together and didn't do anything to not deserve a father. You knew he was having a child with someone else and chose to stick through the marriage. This is part of that. If this is something he himself wants, you are the idiot if you tell him not to or try and stop it. He is an idiot for cheating, obviously, but that was a long time ago, and the child doesn't deserve to be punished for that. No idiots here. The best outcome for everyone, though rough at first, is to be open with your families and your children about this. This child is a half-sibling to your children, and you should all be in each other's lives. I'm not saying that this other woman should come to your house or family gatherings, but the child most definitely deserves to. This child's life will be immeasurably better having a relationship with their father, you as a stepmom, and especially your 5 children. Not the idiot. Your husband and his mistress are both huge idiots. You're trying to protect your kids, and that's understandable. If your husband starts having a relationship with a child, it's just a matter of time until he's around that woman again, and there's a good chance the affair will start back up. Your kid's family will implode, just so the other kid will have a relationship with his dad. I don't see how it's good for so many kids to suffer, just so one will benefit. I'm pregnant with our second daughter, due August 20th. However, I've developed preeclampsia and will be induced Tuesday, July 30th to head off any further complications beyond what I've already experienced. My first delivery with our now 2-year-old daughter was a disaster. I hemorrhaged and became anemic, our daughter needed to be resuscitated, she became jaundiced due to underfeeding, and I developed a hefty postpartum infection that had me laid up for an extended period. Both of our families live about 6 hours north of us. My mom came down immediately following the birth and helped me recover in very personal ways. Helped me shower, dress, even wipe after going to the bathroom. I was essentially incapacitated for almost a month. There's no guarantee that this one will be as bad as that, but I have to be prepared for the worst. My in-laws are extremely hard to get along with. Mother-in-law in particular has an I'm always right attitude and disregards our parenting wishes on the regular. They're highly argumentative about everything. On top of this, they're extremely unhealthy individuals. Father-in-law can barely manage to get up the 4 porch steps to our front door, let alone the 18 stairs down to our finished basement, where the baby would be spending most of her time for now. This means that we would be forced to spend time upstairs, which is not set up for infant care. Mother-in-law isn't in much better shape. When they're here, we're expected to wait on them because they cannot walk more than 40 feet without needing a break. My mom is coming down for 2 weeks again this time. We've told them that they can visit immediately after she leaves, but not before. Mother-in-law has disregarded our instructions and wants to be here for the delivery, so she's booked a hotel. They want to be here in case we need help, which they are physically incapable of rendering. Also, we already have help. I'll probably still be miserable in 2 weeks, but at least I'll be able to pee unassisted. I have zero desire to take care of these 2 adults immediately after pushing something the size of a cantaloupe out of me. I'll still be passing golf ball size clots and whipping my boobs out to pump every 2 hours around the clock. I don't think that requesting a 2-week delay is at all unreasonable, but my husband seems reluctant to put his foot down. I, on the other hand, have already put my foot down with my dad and stepmom by telling them the same thing and having them cancel their own reservations. Am I the idiot for demanding my husband stand up to his parents? Jesus Christ, do they want to watch you push the baby out too? Birth is amazing, but it's not a freaking theater. My mom was there during my birth because it's what we both wanted. She stayed long enough to help and then skedaddled to let my husband's mom take over for a while. I was not forced to entertain or do anything beyond existing and feeding my baby. The audacity to want to be up in your business because oh babies is so entitled she's gonna be a baby for a while, they can freaking wait until. Not the idiot. Not the idiot. When we had our first, my wife said it was fine for visitors to come to the hospital and congratulate us and see the baby. It was utterly exhausting and overwhelming. She was in labor for almost 48 hours, and once the baby came it was non-stop visiting. So by the time our second baby was due, we told everyone that no one was allowed at the hospital to visit except Grandma, who was watching our 2-year-old boy, and they were welcome to come by the house once we were discharged. It was a whole new experience and was so much more amazing. Not the idiot, not even close. Your description of post-baby reality is incredibly accurate. It's hard to tolerate your husband and mother sometimes when you're in that state, much less someone who disrespects and hurts you. No one has any right to have access to your children, period, unless you and your husband agree. And your mother-in-law definitely doesn't get to decide when she gets to intrude. Congrats on the baby. I hope your second delivery is easier than the first. Happy baby to you all. Some light backstory. I'm a crier. I cry at everything. I'm not even usually all that upset when it happens, it's just a weird physical reaction that I go through at the slightest hint of negative emotion, my own or others. My boyfriend of the last year has been incredibly understanding and patient with me about this, and I'm working with a therapist to get a better handle on myself. Here's the issue, we recently went out to the other side of the country to visit my family, which was his first time really spending a good amount of time with them. They all get along great, which I couldn't be happier about. One of the days we were out there, though, I went through a small series of inconveniences, a small screw-up on a work email I had to deal with, our dog sitter accidentally locked herself out of our house, so I had to call our neighbor to let her in, things like that soured my mood a little bit, and then I found out my dad had gotten us dinner reservations for a seafood place that I'm sort of ambivalent to. This is where I potentially become the idiot. No one in my family makes a ton of money, so we don't go out to dinner very often. For that trip, it was reasonable to assume we'd only been going out the one time. Not only was I ambivalent to the chosen restaurant, but there's another restaurant in town that I really love, and I'd hoped we'd be able to go to that one, and I guess on top of all the other tiny disappointments throughout the day, it was just the one that pushed too far, and I started crying. To be clear, I wasn't even that upset. Just a little disappointed. But I couldn't stop myself from crying. I really tried, it just happened. My dad asked what was wrong, and I told him honestly that I'd hoped we could have gone to the restaurant that I liked instead, and he offered to cancel the reservation for the seafood place and get a reservation for the other place the following night instead. I accepted and was really grateful. It was a really nice thing for him to do, and I really appreciated it. My boyfriend was mortified. He said that the way I complained was whiny and childish, and he couldn't believe that after all the work I've put into not giving my tears the weight of genuine sadness that I'm not even feeling, that I would manipulate my dad by crying to get my way. I'm still kind of in shock that he saw it that way. I told him it wasn't like that, my family's used to how I cry over nothing, and he said that's even worse, because that just means they know to drop everything and fix what's wrong with me, so I stop. I don't know. I'm really shaken by this. Am I really being manipulative? Should I have told him not to change the reservations even though I was really happy he did? I don't think anyone was heart set on the seafood restaurant, but I guess I didn't get a chance to ask. So please, I need some outside perspective. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. You hoped for something, but made no attempt to communicate your needs or desires prior to the fact. Not getting the restaurant you wanted, after making no effort to communicate this, means you should accept his choice. The dog sitter and work email soured your mood. That's just life. It honestly sounds like you need more resilience to get through the world if that detracts from your boyfriend getting along with your family. I understand why he was mortified. I would be ashamed if I were with you too. It sounds like you were having a bad day and the restaurant thing was just the straw that broke the camel's back for you. That said, you're the idiot for not just saying I'm having a hard day or even asking your dad pre-tears what he would think about changing restaurants. You didn't deal with your emotions or take some space to compose yourself. Instead, you had your dad fix everything to suit you as the way to stop crying. That sounds like something to work on. You're the idiot. I'm an easy crier as well and I hate it. I feel stupid and childish and silly. I'm an adult, I pay my bills, take care of myself, I can face down bullies and laugh, but damn it, sad movies, songs, disappointing people I like and respect. I'm 5 years old again, and I hate it. But people giving in to the stupid reaction is even worse. It's a humiliation on top of a humiliation. I much prefer being ignored until I can get it under control, not coddled like a child. And taking advantage of people who are just trying to be kind is even worse. That's childish and manipulative. I'm 28 and my fiancé is 30. We both 120k per year. We're getting married in 2 months. For years, we've talked about taking an extended honeymoon of 4 months to travel, since we're both in competitive jobs, and taking time off regularly just isn't possible. To make this dream a reality, a year and a half ago we agreed to start saving aggressively, pay debts, have a no-frills wedding, etc. My job only allowed me to take 2 weeks off, one unpaid, for a honeymoon, so I said okay, but we'll be quitting instead. Travel for an extended time is a dream of mine, and we've been setting ourselves up financially where we can afford for one or both of us to not have immediate work upon return. My fiancé's job told him he can take the unpaid sabbatical and can return afterwards. So great, everything is in motion. 2 weeks ago, I suggested we start booking the first leg of our trip. He told me he was having cold feet about me not having a job after return home. We keep our finances separate, so I showed him how it's financially feasible for me to not work up to 4 months, not dip into emergency funds, and if needed, I have emergency funds for an additional 5 months after trip expenses. After all, that's what we've aggressively set ourselves up to do. Plus, I've been looking for a reason to leave my job, and this is the perfect opportunity to have an amazing adventure and come back with a fresh start away from a toxic workplace. I asked him how he's doing financially and how he's tracking against our financial goals. Turns out he's not. At all. He hasn't been saving at any rate, let alone an accelerated one, and he hasn't been paying down debt. He's been spending a lot of money on drinks, toys, and general convenience premiums, Postmates, Uber Eats. Because of his general overspending, he can't afford to take a destination honeymoon, let alone take 4 months off work for no pay. All this is fine. We keep our finances separate. This doesn't really impact me. I was bummed we couldn't have the honeymoon we talked about and angry he lied, but money management has never been his priority. I told him we can take a honeymoon 4-day trip to Puerto Rico. He said that's all he could afford, and then I would go on my long travel plans with my best friend who has been planning a trip of her own. He got very upset, telling me I should wait to take our designated honeymoon trip together and that I shouldn't replace him. As of now, I'm still going. He's unhappy and says it's embarrassing to him for his new wife to go travel without him, which I understand, but also don't really think his ego takes precedence over my dream to travel, which he fueled for the last year and a half. So, am I the idiot? Not the idiot. But like, I have so many other reactions too. If you're in a toxic workplace, you don't need a 4-month honeymoon as an excuse to quit. You can just quit because it's a toxic workplace. And although it's impressive in a sense that you're not furious at your husband for lying to you, maybe you should be. And like, why weren't you guys checking in about your financial progress along the way? I don't think you're the idiot and you definitely have the right to take that trip, especially since he's probably never gonna save enough money to do it. Not the idiot, but I do not think you should marry someone who can't be honest with you about serious financial matters. Keeping finances separate is fine, and something I personally prefer as well, but there should probably be a bit more transparency. Especially about something regarding extensive travel, and there should have been more discussions and check-ins about the finances regarding this trip. I don't think two people with such poor communication should get married. My wife and I have been together for 5 years. I love her so much that it pains me to write this. The thing is, I was the sole earner for a while, and I was happy to provide. I am a software developer at a local startup that has tripled in employees and gone exponential in revenue. We're not having kids, so my wife got bored of being home and doing nothing. So she got a job at a law firm as a paralegal. Enter this attorney, who I'll call Brandon. My wife started to bring him up quite a bit. You know when your wife starts talking about something, drops it, and then brings it up again a few minutes or hours later like there was no gap. My wife does that with stories about him. I searched through her Facebook friends list one day for Brandon and saw that they had connected. Okay. Then my wife starts going to work happy hours and I'm seeing pictures of the guy on her timeline. In most of the pictures, she is positioned next to him, holding a drink. Okay. I have gained considerable weight since joining the startup. There is free food provided to us nearly every day. My wife has maintained a really low weight and looks as beautiful as she did at 22. Brandon is more like how I used to be weight-wise. However, I believe I make more money than he does. So here it goes. I take off work on Friday, as my team is nearing the end of our project. I wait for my wife to leave the firm and I see her walking out with Brandon. They get in my wife's car, purchased on my dime, and I follow them for a bit. They go to a local dive bar, and it turns out all of her coworkers are there. I see them entering. I wait for hours, and everyone eventually leaves. My wife leaves last with Brandon, and she takes him home. I don't see any physical contact as he exits the vehicle to go inside his apartment building. At this point, I'm sick. I'm gutted. I wait at home for my wife and confront her about Brandon. She went insane basically, threatening to end the marriage because I stalked her. She told me she is always the dear daughter for happy hour because she doesn't drink much, which is true, but she didn't address my greater concerns. Am I the idiot? You're the idiot. This is way over the line, and your wife must be devastated by obvious lack of trust you have in her. This was also bad, especially this part. Brandon is more like how I used to be weight-wise. However, I think I make more money than him. Yikes. It doesn't seem like you have a very high opinion of your wife or your relationship if you're thinking of things so shallow. She has a new work friend, and yes, he's only a friend, and that must be wonderful after all her years spent at home. Be happy for her, apologize, get to couples therapy, and lay off of her. You're the idiot. Having insecurities and concerns does not make you an idiot, but stalking your own wife absolutely does. Why would you not just talk to her with your words? She's allowed to have friends, you're allowed to have questions. But the stalking and confronting, and being given an extremely reasonable explanation for the shared car ride, and then having the nerve to say she didn't address my greater concerns, as if you approach the issue in a mature, calm manner is bonkers and makes you an idiot. My dude. Married people can have friends of the opposite lovemaking. I only hang out with one of my coworkers more than others. He's just a cool dude and his wife and 2 children are awesome too. She didn't get pissed off that he hung out with me at the company outing today, even when we sit next to each other on the office. You're the idiot. Grow the hell up. She's allowed to have friends that are male and you need to get into therapy to discuss your deep-seated trust issues.